Okay. Well, hello, everybody's Joyful Art Studio here. My name's Christy Barron, and I am in Northern California. And I have a little studio where I teach art and crafts and anything having to do with making because that is my passion. But today I am going to be sharing some ideas about using these great little one-step paints from Amy Howard at Home. And I have some fun springy colors here, all my favorites, blues and greens. And so what I'm going to be doing today is some dip dyeing, which is, these are fantastic for that because you don't need a lot of paint. And as you can see, you can dip dye all the things. I love dip dyeing. And so I'm sure we are all very familiar with those little, $5 and under sections at our favorite department stores and craft stores. And so I picked up a variety of things and fell in love with a few of them. So let me just show you first some of the things that I'm going to be using are, I found these fantastic little adorable bud vases, and they're actually lined inside, so even though they're bisque on the outside, meaning not sealed, it's just the raw clay after a fire, the inside is glazed, so your water's not going to seep out. And they came in this great little set of 3 for only a few bucks. So that's my main thing. And then I have got also some other, they had these fantastic little bisque coasters, which are wonderful also. And they were only a few dollars, and they come in several different shapes. So I've got these circle ones, and they're the bisqueware, just like the little buds. And then I also, they have, you can find these little canvas tote bags everywhere. So that's another little idea. So anyway, I'm just going to get started off. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to just show you how I'm going to dip dye these adorable little vases. And I did a little pattern with some paint on the outside. And here's another one that I put some little chamomile buds in because aren't they just adorable? So that was dip dyed as well. So let's start off with that, and I'll kind of talk about some other things I dip dyed as I went along. So the first thing you'll need is a little bucket, just like this. Or you could even use, I even use these little takeout containers. I upcycle these. You can see I've already got some dip dye going in. And I'm going to take just a little bit of, let's see what color. I'm going to use this one, which this one is, I can't even see the color. Oh, Harbor Lights. I don't have my glasses on. Let me get those on so I can let you know. So this one is Harbor Lights, and I am only going to take a tiny bit, maybe like a tablespoon, and you will see how much we can actually get out of one little tablespoon of this paint. So I'm going to put a little tablespoon in there, just like so. Close it back up. So as you can see, I just have just a tiny bit. And then I'm going to put in some water. There is no science to this, just a tablespoon of paint and a little bit of water, but you can kind of see in there. It's just, this is one of those little takeout containers too. I love these. And I would say I maybe put a cup of water in here at the most. And so, of course, depending on the amount of paint you have and the amount of water, that's going to determine how intense or diluted your paint color is. So I'm just using a little popsicle stick to give this a stir. knock. Okay, so I have my dilution here, and it's this beautiful spring Harbor Lights color. And I'm going to take my little bud vase. And I like when the dye is a bit offset. I just think it lends a little organic, even modern tone to it. So I'm putting my finger inside this vase, and I'm just going to kind of set it in here. You can kind of see, and roll it around to where I want that color. And you're going to see that in some spaces it's going to, just kind of turning it a little more, be more vibrant. Sometimes it's not. And this bisque is very thirsty, so you will not need to let it drip for long. But I like to keep a little piece of parchment off to the side. That's a nice drying surface, or a tray, or however you like to dry things. You want it to be something that it's not going to stick to. So I like parchment for that reason. So I'm going to set it aside to dry, but you can see how it's just absorbed that color, and it's this beautiful watercolor look. So we dip dyed one little vase. So you can see here, I made this one amount of paint before, just to give you a little bit of an idea. I just started grabbing all the things and dyeing them because I realized I had so much dye available to me. So you can see here, I grabbed some white tags, and I used these towards the end when my dye was not quite as deep. And I love the watercolor effect. You can see I stenciled on top of that. These are some little bags that we have a monthly membership my kids are part of, and they always send some of the goodies in these bags. And so they're great to regift. And so I took some of these, and you'll see how I put that together. I love to give away herbs to all my neighbors. And so here I have dip dyed this one. This one is in the English boxwood. It's a beautiful green, and it goes beautifully with giving some herbs or little flowers. And then you can see my dip dyed tag, and I stenciled a little butterfly on there from the Butterflies and Dragonflies stencil. And I also dip dyed another bud vase. So you know those little wood pieces in all those little sections? So here is a little wood house, and I just put that in the bottom of my bucket and turned it, and it dyed it a subtle stain. And then I used the veggies in white. I think it's cauliflower on the side. These are perfect for those tiered shelves that are so popular. And then this one is just a larger pot I had from, I don't even know where I had it. It was white, and I decided to dip dye that too. And it dip dyed right over it, then stenciled the butterfly with it. And I still had dye left. So I took one of these little canvas bags, and this was with the boxwood one, and I dip dyed that, and then used this stencil, She Is Strong, over it. So, and honestly, I still have little containers. That all was dyed from this little, and you can see I still have some left. So the point is, don't throw away your paint water when you're painting your furniture or your pieces. And if your paint water is a beautiful color and you've been using your one-step paint, you can dye so many things, and they make beautiful gifts. Oh, and I even did these little coasters, which I'm going to show you next. So this was with the blue, which my tag is off. I'm sorry. It's this beautiful blue here is what I use for that. My tag color is off. It's something indigo. But I just love that as well. That would be beautiful for some sea ocean ones. And here is the harbor, the boxwood, English boxwood. Okay, so let's do a coaster, and then I think our little bud vase will be dry, and I'll show you how I like to embellish that, and then we will embellish, we'll stencil on one of our little coasters, because it's kind of hard to stencil on the bud vases. But so I'm just gonna again tip my container, letting it absorb that beautiful color. And these also dry really quickly as well. The paper is probably, the paper and the fabric are the ones that are going to take the longest. And I did nothing special to this fabric to seal it. I dipped it, I let it dry 100%, and then I threw it in the wash on express cycle cold water, and they came out soft and gorgeous, and the pigment hadn't diluted at all. So let's let this coaster drip it just a bit. And these are great. They already have the little non-scratch bottoms. So see, I've got this gorgeous sea green color there. I'm going to let that dry. And then I'm going to go ahead and dip dye my bag so that you can see that I can use this tiny little container to do this bag. So what I did was I folded it in half a little bit, and then I just kind of started laying it down, and I used a little stick, and I just started letting it absorb that watered down paint. And when I did this before, I did do it over a sink, just because this one has the potential to be a little bit messier. And when you bring it out, it's going to, of course, drip a little bit more. So I'm going to just let that sit in there for a sec till I know that it's gotten in all those white parts. Tap that away. You can sneak a little peek. I'm leaving this top open or out of the bucket because I don't want it to get any dye on it. So looks like we're good. So you can see and I love the organic line that goes across the top. It's going to drip for a bit, but you can see how beautiful that is. So I'm just going to set that aside. And you would stencil that just like you would normally stencil fabric. I'll go ahead and show you on this little bag in a minute since we've got some time. Wipe that down. Okay, so for these little bud vases, it is already pretty dry. And so these ones in particular are not very easy to stencil because of the round nature of those. But I still love a tiny bit of embellishment sometimes. And so with these, you can see I did just some little markings. And I'm going to do that on this one in just a second. Show you how I did that. Very simple and quickly. In this one, I just did some white lines. And they're imperfect and squiggly, and I love it that way. So it's one of those great projects. You don't have to feel like it has to be perfection because the beauty is in the imperfection for these. So I used some of this gel ink. Here I have, I can never read this pen, it's so dark. I think it's Hush Your Mouth. So I have this Hush Your Mouth and the white, which is Well I Declare. And I'm just going to put a little bit out. And you could use a little paintbrush. I'm just going to use my finger. because that's what I have right here, which is the beauty of this. So I'm going to just take my little pinky finger, and again, I like this because it's not perfect. It is going to be imperfect and beautiful and have an organic feel to it. So I like to kind of come around and just make some little marks. See, I'm touch, pull, and it almost shows up like a little teardrop. Okay, and I'm just going to put little cluster there, just like that. And I like that they're not too much contrast. It's just a subtle difference in texture, in color, just a little shift there. I'm going to come over here, and I like to think in odd numbers, so making sure I have, you know, just design-wise, odds are a good number to think in. So I'm going to do 3 different little clusters on this. And if you wanted your teardrops to be the other way, you of course could turn your little bud vase upside down. So here we go. So see, that is done. Isn't that gorgeous? And if you wanted, you could leave these just like this, let them dry, leave it good to go. If you wanted to put a little matte sealer on there, just in case, because the paint is not going to go away, but since it is raw bisque, if water was to splat on it or was to spill over, then those water stains will show up. So if you do not want water stains, I would go ahead and use a nice matte sealer with that. Okay, so this is already dry as well. So let's give this guy a stencil. So I'm just going to lay it flat in front of me. I'm going to use, let's see, I've got these butterflies and grasshoppers. And I also have these ones from Eat Your Veggies. I'm going to use, I never know until I get that. I think I'm going to use this right here because this could be, you know, of course it looks like a head of cabbage or maybe some, it's a bloom. It really could be, it's just a silhouette. So it could be what you're, what you want it to be. Kind of like this cauliflower here that I used on this house. It easily could be the impression of a bloom or a sunflower opening. So that's what I love about these. They're so versatile. I'm going to use one of these blooms because I like the lines in them. So I'm going to pull off my stencil and I'm going to lay it on here just like so. And I personally like when it is off a little bit. So you can see a little bit how I've laid that in there. You can see the white and the turquoise. Okay, I'm going to lay it flat and I'm going to give it a nice rub just to make sure all my bubbles are out and it's got a nice good little seal. And then I'm going to take my Hush Your Mouth. I really love this blue color. It looks great with these other blue tones. Put a little on there. Have my little squeegee cut. Just one of the Maker Studios little less is more. I don't like to waste my supplies at all because especially the inks and the paints, they're some of the most expensive things in my studio. So I always say take a little. You can always get more, but you can't get it back in the tube once it's on these gel inks. On the little tubs of chalk you could. And I'm just carefully going around the edge here of my little bloom. Just a tiny bit more. Okay, that looks good. A little piece here. All right, so a nice thin coat that's evenly covered all my little mesh openings. I'll peel this off. Ooh, I love it. I love it. Okay, and I'm going to put this in my little water tub so that that does not ruin my stencil. You want to wash those out right away. Okay, so look how beautiful that is. Gorgeous. So for these coasters, again, you're going to, it's just like the little vases. I would seal these with a matte sealer so that it doesn't absorb the water when you put your drink on there, because the paint's not going to go away, but the seal, the water will stain it. And if you seal it, you shouldn't have any of those water issues. And then hand wash these. But I love it. Okay, so then just for the fabric, you could stencil these guys as well. And the paper, same way. I don't seal these at all. I just use them in little gift tags. It's a great way to use up that last little bit of paint. If you have used up a bunch on fabric or on other projects, you know, you could use the last little bit with these little paper tags in the office section. Okay, so I'm going to just stencil this guy real quick, and then we should be good. I'm going to use this time, I think I'll use this guy over here, this beautiful butterfly on the fabric. And again, I'm going to use that same gel ink. I love these products. They're just so versatile. I'm going to put it right there. And I'm going to let his little wing go off just a little bit. I like a little bit of abstract or asymmetrical symmetry. You could put a cluster of different stencils on there, totally fine. So see, I've got that in there, a little bit's hanging off. Again, I'm going to get my Hush Your Mouth. Tiny bit more. If you have any questions about this, please drop them below. And as soon as I'm off, I will check those out and help you. And you can also come visit me over at Joyful Art Studio with Christy. And I do all kinds of fun art and painting and crafting and making. Here we go. Look at that. You could even use these as little pencil bags or makeup bags. Okay? So, and then when you're done, when this finishes drying, once you've stenciled your fabric, let's say you dip dyed this or you dip dyed your bag, you let it dry, you stencil it, you're going to want to heat set that ink on your fabric so that it's permanent. So, okay. Well, I'm so glad you joined us today. Thank you to Maker Studio for letting me take over for a few minutes with some fun little projects. And if you make anything that I just showed you today, or you have another idea, go ahead and send me a picture over on my Facebook, or you can post it on my Facebook. I love seeing the different things that everyone creates. So I hope to see you again sometime, and come on over and visit me at a Joyful Art Studio with Christy. Bye.